Hi everyone. I'm going to try to get 6 done in this video. So basically we'll do a custom data model and then we will use NSEncoder to kind of follow along that uh, Todoey app that's on the Udemy course. And so we'll just dive right into it. So let's create a custom data model. So I think some of you know that you can either do struct or class, kind of create a separate file. In Swift UI, my preference is always to kind of keep everything together if possible. Again, this is you know uh, different thoughts on and different philosophies, but there's always that the whole concept of model view controller and Swift UI. The model view controller, or sorry, the model view model. That's also one, but for me, I like to try to just split my model and my view up and kind of make it in the same file. Hopefully, if we need to split things up to make it more readable, certainly do that. But let's just start here. So to start off, we're going to just create a struct, and the struct will be of item. So just to try to follow along in the video. So struct item, and we will have a couple of things in there. So we're actually going to do an ID. This allows you to do to set a unique identifier, which allows us to then reference it in the for each loop. So we'll also have a title to kind of mimic that Udemy course, and we'll make it initially blank. We'll also make a variable of done. This is that check mark to make a checkbox work or not. All right. So let's see what we have here. So I think the struct is pretty good. All right, again, I'm just gonna, well, I want to comment this out now because it'll throw an error, but no, let's go ahead and do it. So we'll comment this out. I kind of left all the stuff in here so you can kind of see where we've been and where we're going. I'll probably leave it in there, continue to leave it in there, and I got to check this into GitHub eventually, so I will try to do that at the end of this video because I think this is, if I can get through the NSEncoding, then we'll be pretty much good to go. All right, so let's do a new state variable. And I don't want to type everything over again, so I'm trying to see if I can find one that I can copy. Item array. And this is of an array of items that we just created up top. Or an item, sorry, array of item that we just created up top. And we will do this. We will make each of an item. All right. Title is the fellowship. Just copy and paste a little bit here. And we will do done is false. We'll just initialize it there. And then we'll create, again, 2 more. So we'll have item and 1 more item. And we'll do this at 2 towers. And return to the king. All right. So let's see what it's complaining about right now. Property. Oh, no, it's not complaining about anything. Great. So far so good. We've done our item array. We have set up our custom data structure. So what's going to happen here? Okay, so now that we've changed this out of an array, we are going to need to see, we want to kind of change this to mimic what we have. So let's change this for each statement around. Now that we have its own ID, we actually don't need to do this count. We can just say for item array in item, we're going to do print item. Just print the item dot. Let me just take this part out. Print item dot title. All right, and then here for the text, we are going to say again, delete all this here because we're not using that array, anymore. We're using our custom data type or data model, item.title. All right, so let's see what it's going to say here. So if we want to do this, we need that item conform to identifiable. All right, so let's just go up here and oops, maybe I can't spell, identifiable. There you go. All right. And let's see if it complains anymore. All right, so far so good. Let's see what else we need to do. What else do we need to do here? Okay, here we go. So we're no longer, I'm going to actually delete this user defaults piece. So in the item array here, we should, we actually need to append a new item, right? So we have to create this new item. So what we'll do is we'll create a variable. We'll call it new item equals item. So we created this new item that we're going to store. Now if we don't do this, it should default to false based on our strut up here. But sometimes I like to be explicit, so we'll make that false. And then we're going to append that to that array now. So we're going to append that new element of item because it's looking for an item, so new item. All right, so hopefully you could follow that. Basically, we're creating a new item of type item. We're going to set the title and done to what the fields we needed to set it to, and then we're appending that entire array to the item. Sorry, the new item to that item array. All right. I'm also going to remove this part just by deleting it. This was for the app storage property wrapper that I used earlier, but I'm not going to use that anymore. And again, user defaults is just not the place you probably want to store this. So let's just get rid of this for now, or get rid of it permanently, excuse me. All right, so I think we're okay now. Like, we should be able to save items and everything like that. I think at this point, one thing we can do also is we can change the system name, because we now have that piece that allows us to know if something's been checked or not. So let's go ahead and run this. Let's see where it complains. So it's attaching. Let's take a look. And it's probably still loading on my simulator. Again, not the fastest machine here. So, all right, we'll wait another minute or so. All right, so it did load. You can still click on the items. The items still come up. All right, so it looks like so far so good. So let's finish this part off here, right? So what we want to do is, if, and I'll make it explicit here, right? If item.done is equal to true, then we're going to have, let's make it false, since I have the image right here, right? False, the image will be image system name. Otherwise, we will make the image this checkbox fill. All right. So let's see. So again, if then, should be equals equals, but we'll just do equals for now, and then let's move this just down here. You know what? Let's just make this. Oh, I did change it. So it should be okay. And what I want to do is, when we push the button, I actually, in addition to printing it out, let's toggle the done field. So let's just go ahead and do item dot done dot toggle. So I don't know if you saw that, but toggle basically toggles a Boolean variable, right? So that's exactly kind of what we need. So let's take a look at what we have so far now. All right, so if I push this, the fellowship, hey, look at that. It checks the box now. Uncheck, check, uncheck. Everything looks good. Let's add an item, see if that works. The Hobbit. Hey, there you go. So it adds. All right. So far, so good. This is looking like a full-fledged to-do app. You know, I can't delete the items yet, but I can certainly check the items. I can add a new item, bananas. Everything seems to be checking correctly. Kind of scroll through this. But as you can imagine, right now my biggest challenge is if I were to stop the app, or crash out of the app, or terminate the app and then reload it, I would run into the problem where none of my data persists. So let's go ahead and do the second part of this, which is doing this using the NSEncoder. So what we'll do here is we will create a data file path like they do in the Udemy video. And we'll do file manager dot default dot URLs for URLs, and then for, and this will be document directory. So we're going to store this in the document directory. Again, our user domain mask, and we are going to do the first dot appending path component. And we will append items.plist. And then let's see if this is happy with that. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to set up that data file path. All right. So now what we need to do is in our save, we're going to encode it and we're going to store it in this data file path. So when we save, what we're going to do here is we're going to, after appending it, let's go ahead and encode it, right? All right, so let encoder equal property list encoder. We'll do let data, and this again just follows the Udemy course. Try encoder.encode self.item array. So again, we're gonna let our data, the data constant, be the encoding of our item array, and we're going to try to write to that data file path that we had up top. All right. And if it doesn't work, we'll catch this error and we will print error encoding and the error. All right. So this should encode, create a property list encoder, encode it into this data, and then we'll write to that data file path. Now, what it's going to complain is that the item has to conform to encodable, and I think in the Udemy course it was the same thing, right? So it has to be encodable, right, and decodable, because we're going to have to decode it later, and they have a special one in there called just codable, right? Codable, right? So the next change I'll have to make here is I'll have to change that to a var. I can keep it here, but what will happen is it will complain that since this is codable, this is a mutable property, but it won't be decoded because it is immutable. So we'll just change that to a variable. All right. So we're good over here. And I think the last thing we need to do is go ahead and let's run it. Let's see if we can save these items. We won't be able to see them saved, but you can see, again, we lost all of our data. So let's go with the Hobbit. All right, I just want to make sure that this actually works. All right, so far everything looks like it's working. Let's add another item. I don't know, Lord of the Rings. And everything seems to be working right. But again, if we stop this and reload it, right, we're probably going to lose all of our information because we have not pulled back from this property list encoder. So let's just create a new function, call it function load items, and in here we will basically do the opposite, right? We will if let data, I'm just going to try, let's do data, so we're going to look at the data contents of and the data file path, right? We'll let the decoder equal property list encoder, sorry, list decoder, because we're decoding this. We'll do item array equals try decoder dot decode, and we're going to decode item dot self. Again, this is from data, right, from the data up here. So again, this follows along, you know, that again, that Udemy course. So we did a do, we'll need to catch this, and we'll do a catch print. For now, we'll just print the error, or print error. All right. So let's see how this works. Is this still an error? Error 13. Okay, we just handled that error, so good. And so we should load this load items once we have our view here, our list view. And so we can do that using something called a task. So we can say dot task, and it basically adds an asynchronous task to perform before this view appears. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the data from that stored file, that items.plist file, before this view appears. So let's go ahead and go do that, and we'll just do load items. All right. So pretty much here is the code to get this code complete. Now we could do something like await load items, right? And that really just tells this task to await. And then if we wanted to fix that, we would have to do an async here, right? So this then allows this function to run asynchronously, and this task awaits this load items. One other thing we could probably do is we could change this, I think, into a, I can't remember the word, ternary operator. So we could do something like this. You know, let check mark image equal item done. So if item, the check mark image will equal, if item done is true, it will be check mark square fill, and if it isn't, then if it's false, then it will be square shape. So with this, we could just remove these sections. So again, you know, it just depends on, oh, whoops, sorry, I should probably finish that image. System name is whatever this checkmark image is, right? So it just depends on how you like to view things. I think this is more explicit, but it's more lines. It just really depends on what your preference is. I personally would probably actually just clean this all up and probably make it look something like this, where if, you know, item done, you know, is implicitly true, then we're going to put the square shape in there. Sorry, the checkmark square, and if it's not, it will be this weird square shape. And so this is probably what I would do just to make it more explicit. So let's actually see if this works. We actually haven't tested it. But in theory, this should load from that from that data file path, these items. So let's take a look, see what happens. And do we have a build failed? Oh, so I probably didn't have an extra double quote. So let's try that again, see what happens. All right, it's attaching. All right, so you can see some of the other items are now there. Let's check it. Seems to work. Let's add a new item. We'll call it, I don't know. It's, Gandalf. Alright, so it's adding there. Oh, and I misspelled it, I think. Alright, anyway, let's terminate it. Let's see if we go back and if it works. Yep, so we have everything in there, and it seems to be working exactly the way it should be. So here you now have a pretty good to-do list. This pretty much completes this first section. Probably you're going to want to be able to delete some of these items off and things like that. And I think if you follow the course, we start adding categories. So we'll dive into those videos or those exercises in the next couple of videos. Thanks for watching.